Well, hello, I'm Dr. Edward Wheeler. I'm the founder of Total MindPower Institute, and I'm glad you found me here. I'm glad you're here because I have something very important to share with you. See, this concept can help you understand why you're getting the results you're getting and why you feel the way you feel about your life in general, and perhaps something very specific that you may be going through. Now, I want to begin with a very simple question. Have you ever known exactly what you needed to do, yet still struggled to do it consistently? See, most people have. You're not alone there. Many people that come to me struggling, frustrated, not knowing they're meant for more, yet not achieving it in a fashion that serves them. They're struggling with this concept that I know what to do. I just don't feel like what I know to do is creating the results I want. And you may think that that is a plan problem. And the truth is your plan can always be improved. Right? The plan you think you have for whatever it is you want to accomplish needs to get better. Otherwise, you'd already have what you want. You'd already have accomplished the goal. The problem is you have a plan, but you're not executing the plan. And I'm here to share with you that it's perhaps because it's not aligned with who you believe you are. See, people come to me requesting help, or they reach out for conversations, and I find out that they have knowledge, they have opportunity, they have that plan, but the execution is inconsistent. They're not following through. And see, that's not a discipline problem. That's not even a motivation problem. That's not an accountability problem. So addressing it from those perspectives is not going to help. So I'm going to give you a different perspective. What if the issue was not discipline or accountability or motivation? What if the issue was identity? Now, within Total Mind Power, a foundational principle that I share with clients that we create awareness around is this concept of identity. And your identity is simply who you believe you are as a human being, what you're capable of creating, what you're capable of doing. And we have all sorts of identities. Right? We have an identity as a human being primarily, and I'm not going to make this too simple. I'm not going to go back real far, but I want to think if you are a parent, whether that's a mother or a father. See, you assumed the identity of a parent when your son or daughter was born. And then you grew into the identity. You may have been like me and says, well, now I've got a kid, now what do I do? Right? Because I hadn't fully embodied in it and gained the capabilities and awareness to be a parent. But how did I become the parent that I've become? How did I become the grandparent that I've become? Over time and through execution, and I just naturally knew I would grow into it. Right? I figured it out. But see, we don't do that when it comes to our goal achievement. Right? Because a goal achievement feels different than having a child. Right? Now, it can be the same thing if you've set the intention to be the best parent you could possibly be. Then you start thinking about, well, how does this person think? How do they behave? How do they communicate? And those all become a part of your identity, but you allow yourself to grow into them. But I'm approaching this from a professional aspect, perhaps in your role in your business, but even in the identity of being the person who shows up in a healthy relationship. Right? If we don't believe that's who we are, that I'm just bad at relationships, I'm a poor communicator in relationships, that's going to affect our results as we go through things in our relationships. But let's just get back to talking about a goal achievement, right? Being successful in a professional endeavor. Now, certain behaviors in our life we acquire with very little effort. Right? They just come naturally to us. Not necessarily because they're easy, but because they fit who we believed ourselves to be. And it may have been programmed into us from the time we were born. That's where beliefs begin to start. But the things that we struggle with in life occur because it's not aligned with who we believe we are at our core. Right? And as a result, when you go to execute your plan towards a meaningful outcome, or what some would call a goal, you start, you stop, you restart, because it doesn't feel natural. And you promise yourself you'll do better. You just need motivation. God, if I just had somebody to hold me accountable. Yep, but see, the pattern of behavior that's coming from your belief about yourself is what's driving your behavior. Okay? So that when the pattern continues, and why does the pattern continue? Because it's what your behavior follows identity. Someone who sees themselves as healthy tends to make healthier choices. Someone who sees themselves as a leader tends to take responsibility. Right? And healthy is an identity. Leader is an identity. Organized. Someone who sees themselves as organized tends to create structure with their behavior. See, the behavior is not the cause. The behavior is the expression. Identity is the cause. And if we don't address the identity, then the individual will struggle. And think about it. If it's something you've never done before, if it's a goal you're going after, and it's uncertain and unfamiliar to you, and you don't realize that you've got to imagine and perceive and focus and become the person who would accomplish that, you don't give any effort to that. Effort's the word. If you don't put any effort into that, then to create more awareness, then you're just out there doing things and letting chips fall where they may. And part of personal growth is expanding your identity. See, trying to change behavior without changing identity is a very slippery slope to be on. And it shows up in results, and then we wonder why we feel the way we feel and why we got the results we got, and we consider ourselves failure, which is the ultimate identity. The ultimate identity that you want to reject, because there is no failure, right? You're just looking at it the wrong way. You're just approaching it from the wrong perspective. So understand that if you want to accomplish something more, better, different in your life, you're going to have to expand and take responsibility for what you believe to be true about yourself and identify the attributes and capabilities and traits of the person who would accomplish your goal, would accomplish what you want to accomplish. And then realize and accept the idea that you can grow into that person. You can grow into that identity. But if you don't realize that that is what's happening, then you just are frustrated and you feel the feelings that you feel, and you feel stuck. And you're stuck because you're missing out on the key point that's causing the misalignment in your life. So let me show you what I mean here. Inside our work, we often talk about what I call the identity results loop. As I just said, identity influences behavior, and behavior creates results. And results create evidence. And the evidence reinforces identity. And then the cycle repeats. The challenge is that many people are trying to force new behaviors while operating from the old identity, the old belief system. This is just who I am. But see, you got to realize that you're going after something you've never done before. It may be a new job or a new target within your current occupation, or things change and all of a sudden you're dealing with a completely different clientele. And if you watched a video I released a short time ago, is that one thing that's consistent in your life is that everything's changing. As much as you don't want it to change, everything's changing. That's the one consistent thing in your life, in all of our lives. So you got to understand how to adapt to change. And I'm saying that be open to expanding your identity. And see, this goes against what you've probably been told since you were a little tyke. Right? Just be yourself. If you are yourself, that will be good enough. And ultimately, at the core, that is true. But we have to be willing to expand and grow and learn and evolve ourselves, all while being ourselves, that beautiful self that has our genius skills attached to it. See, personal growth is uncomfortable. Personal growth is the purpose of setting a goal. The purpose of a goal is not to accomplish the goal. And very shortly, when you interact with me on these calls, you're going to hear me say, you won't hear me say goals at all. I'll be using a different language because I contend that if you're going to change your identity, you're going to need a big reason. If you're going to expand your identity in yourself, what you believe to be true about yourself, you're going to need a big reason to do so. So we're going to be talking in terms of worthy ideals and definite chief aim. When we get into directional identity, we're going to go as deep as purpose. Because when we have awareness of purpose, mission, worthy ideal, and definite chief aim, and those are driving our motivation and our efforts, then it becomes a natural part of the process just to be willing to expand our identity because we know why we're doing something. See, but if you're not aware of these things, the old identity will always pull you back towards what feels familiar. But see, the thing is that a lot of times we're in a situation where we can't go back to the old identity and prosper in the new world because everything's changing. You've got to be willing to change, but understand they're not changing the core values about yourself. You're just tweaking some beliefs. You're addressing some patterns of thought. And quite honestly, you're addressing stories that you've told yourself over and over for years and years that are just not true. And that old identity will pull you back, not because you're weak, not because you're lazy. It's because the identity is powerful. Identity drives emotion. It controls emotion, and emotion is the most powerful force on the universe. But here's the good news. Identity is not fixed. Identity can expand. Identity can evolve. Identity can become intentional. But it begins with awareness. And that's the foundation within Total Mind Power. It's expanding awareness. When you can become aware that, yes, I must change if I'm going to accomplish that next level. Even if that you don't want that next level is not really too far out there, because the world is changing and we're getting new ideas coming to us. We got AI involved in everything we're doing, and we may have resistance to new technology because we don't feel like it's aligned with who we are. See, we got to expand the awareness of what you believe about yourself and understand the process for change. But also be aware of, because your identity reinforces the standards of what you'll accept in your life. So you got to raise the bar, raise your standards if you want to raise the results. And I will contend, and I can show you how to raise your awareness so that your behaviors feel natural. And you really realize that when you're trying to force behavior, it's because you're out of alignment. You don't have clarity about what you're meant to do and why you want to do it. I often say in my interaction with clients is stop focusing so much on how you're going to accomplish it. Focus more on what it is and why you want it. Why do you want to expand your identity? Why is it important? And then what is it that you're expanding your identity to? Right? And I promise you, if you look at it from this perspective, the answers will come to you. Solutions will begin to show up. Because awareness creates choice, and choice creates the opportunity for intentional change. So I'd like to leave you with one question. Where are you in your life currently relying on willpower and trying to force yourself to do something? See, will is a very, very powerful perspective to approach. We got to be willing to do the thing that must be done. But you got to realize that force negates. Right? When you're trying to force yourself to do something, that emotion is disruptive. It's chaotic. See, you don't need willpower. You don't need to force yourself to do it. What you actually most likely need is an identity shift. But having an understanding of what it means to shift your identity. And so you're not going back against something you've been told since you were a little tyke to just be yourself. It's to be willing to expand your identity around yourself, just as you did when you became a parent or you became a college graduate. See, there's an identity that goes with being a college graduate or being a husband or a wife. And we give ourselves space to evolve into that. And it's usually because we have a desire. There's an emotion and a desire behind it. So your identity shift to accomplish what you're set out to accomplish in your professional life or in your personal life, and if it's releasing weight, it comes down to identity. If it's having a level 10 beautiful, significant other relationship, you're going to have to change what you believe about yourself. If you're not in one now. It's as simple as this. If you believe, and I use this word carefully, but it's a powerful message. See, you're not likely to release weight if in your mind you think you're fat. You have the identity of a heavy person. Right? If your relationships have all been bad and your identity is that I'm not good in relationships, and you're unwilling to shift that belief and address where it come from and change the story in your mind, and that's all your identity is. It's a story you keep telling yourself over and over again, and your results are not going to change. So I invite you to grasp onto what landed with you today with the identity results loop. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me, and I'll see you in the next session. I'm Dr. Ed.